Welcome to the Front Seat Life podcast. This is Jessica Butts, your host and CEO and creator of Front Seat Life, where I help you be unapologetically who you are in your life, love, and business. Hello, everybody. This is episode 1, which I absolutely love that we are really just kicking this off. It's funny. I am such a intuitive type and a creative person. I have actually recorded about 12 of these episodes already, just as they've kind of come to me. And I've recorded episode 10 and 5 and 8 and all over the place. And now I'm coming back to episode 1. So it doesn't feel like episode 1 for me, but it's certainly episode 1 for all of you. So thank you for joining me. I know you guys have so many options to listen to, and there's so much information out there. So I just adore you and thank you for being a part of this journey. Thank you for being a part of this podcast. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for sharing it with your families and wanting to be somebody that wants to change their life and wants to dig deeper. So I know who you guys are. I know you listeners. I can see you on the treadmills right now. I can see you driving, carpooling, doing all the things that you're doing in your lives, and taking the time to listen to podcasts like this mean that you are a special person. You are somebody who's into personal development. You want what's best for your life and your children and your spouse and yourself. And I admire people like you very, very, very much. I am one of you. I think we are sadly a small breed in this world. Jeff Olson, the author of The Slight Edge, really, he calls it the 5%ers. I'm a tiny bit nicer. I actually think it's probably around 15 or 20%, but he really calls people like us, again, the 5%ers, people who want great things for their life and their relationships and their businesses and all of the above. So thank you for being here on episode 1. So hopefully you've listened to episode 0. I talked a little bit about who I am, why I'm doing this, what has gotten me here on this journey. And today's episode is really the basis of all the work that I do. It's the name of my very first book, which is called Live Your Life from the Front Seat. So I have been obsessed with Meyers Briggs since I was about 20 years old. It was my very first job out of college. I started working in human resources at an insurance company, and we did a team building event, and we had a Meyers Briggs person come in, and it was one of those moments in your life. I'm sure you guys know these moments where you just have this, holy shit, this is fascinating. And it just explained so much. It made so many things crystal clear to me. And since that day, I have literally been obsessed with it. I have written books about it. I've come up with my own philosophy around it. I've been to all the meetings, all the stuff, everything. And so as I think an educator and somebody who loves doing this work, and a former psychotherapist, and I've taken all the work, I think, as a human resources person for many, many years, a psychotherapist, doing couples counseling, doing my own work, being a hot fucking mess myself, and then kind of, figuring out all of these different areas in my life and putting it together in a way that I hope people can understand it. I recently saw a post on something about Meyers Briggs, and it was shocking to me, like how many people think it's like hooey, or think it's not real, or that it's fake. And it was shocking to me how many people thought that, when in reality, it's one of the most amazing tools, if not the most amazing tool, to help us really understand ourselves and others in our life. So this episode is really to educate you on all things Meyers Briggs in a way that I hope that you can understand it. So I write my books, and this podcast is going to be in a way that I want you to be able to use it and that it's relatable. I personally cannot stand speakers or books or something that talk at this level where people just don't understand it, or it's not interesting, or it's not usable, or the word I like to use is they pontificate, and I hate that shit. So This is not going to be that. This is a whole nother level of this, and just make it usable, relatable. And I'll tell you some stories. And again, so this is so you can show up and be unapologetically who you are in your life, your love, and your business. So let's start there, because this isn't just about us. This is not just about being unapologetically who we are, but it's also understanding the people in our lives. So while this is based off of the Meyers Briggs work, again, I have kind of come up with my own ways to describe it. And one of the first ways is thinking about it in terms of something that I learned in graduate school. And that is that there's an infinity symbol. So wherever you are, imagine an infinity symbol right now. On one side, maybe the left side of the infinity symbol, is differentiation, which is really this whole thing that I talk about being unapologetically who you are. This is putting your own oxygen mask on first, understanding who we are in this world so that we can not be codependent. We can be healthy detached. We can have our own opinions. We can have our own lives. We can spend time by ourselves. We can be okay. We can learn how to communicate. We can understand our needs, our wants, our desires. And it's surprising how many people don't know those things. So that's one side, is differentiation. The other side of the infinity symbol, and let me be clear, it's an infinity symbol and not a line, because we are always floating back and forth between ourselves, differentiation, and others, which is attunement. And attunement is truly being attuned with others in our lives. We do not live in a silo. We do not live in a world without others. We have other people in our lives. Most of us actually love and care about those people. And therefore, this is about understanding ourselves and understanding others in our lives. So I have written a couple of different books. One, Live Your Life from the Front Seat, which is really a life book, I would call it. Don't Do Stuff That You Suck At, which is actually the next episode of this podcast, and that is more entrepreneurial related. I have a journal called Be Unapologetically Who You Are, and then the next book coming out, hopefully soon, is called Love Me for Who I Am. And that truly is this other side of the infinity symbol, which is the attunement piece. It's about first understanding ourselves and then understanding people in our lives and how we can see them for who they are, not try to change them. Did you guys hear that? Not try to change them, but accept them for who they are, because personality type is innate. It does not change. We are actually born into this world with our personality type. I know. So many of you already are like, this is bullshit. I've changed when I was in high school, when I was this, when I was that. It doesn't mean that we don't evolve. It doesn't mean that we don't go through periods of our life when we actually aren't ourselves, which I'm going to explain in the next episode, I promise. However, we are born with our type. That's a fact. All of your kids, your spouse, we all came out of our mamas with our personality type as we are. Therefore, when we have people in our lives who are trying to change us, or we're trying to be well-rounded, which, by the way, being well-rounded is bullshit. Just do what you're good at. When we try to do these things, it's just futile. I like to think of this as two different visuals. One is pushing a boulder up a hill. How many of you, I can imagine, have tried to do this? I certainly have, in times in the wrong job or the wrong relationship or something. And there's something in your life that you're trying to do. For me, these are details, it's data, it's QuickBooks, it's all that detail-y stuff, paying bills, all of those kinds of things. Pushing a boulder up a hill, it is fucking exhausting. I'm terrible at it, and you're terrible at certain things too. That is the difference between trying to be like well-rounded. Like, why would we spend time and energy doing things that we suck at? So then there's the alternative to that, which is having a beach ball on the beach. The beach ball just flows. It might even get caught up in the wind. It's just easy and effortless and flowing. Those are the parts of our personality type that we just are awesome at. It's natural, it's easy, it flows. So therefore, when we're trying to change ourselves or change another person in our life, that then becomes this massive over-efforting. And it actually is like pushing a boulder up a hill. So I don't want any in my life, including myself, to try to make me do things that's like pushing a boulder up a hill. I choose in my life as much as possible, 80-20 rule, to do 80% of the time to do things that I'm naturally good at, that I was born into this world to do. So again, so many of you are like, oh, but I've changed, I've done these things. It doesn't mean that life circumstances don't come in and influence us, but our type does not change. So when I was going through my divorce, I hid from the world. I became what you would say very introverted. And I was literally, which I'll teach you in the next episode, in my back seat. My back seat is in my head, introverted, thinking, over processing, and just hiding from the world, which is not doing any good. And so some people, if they met me at that time, would have thought, oh, this is who she is. Oh, on the contrary, it's not who I am at all, but that is how I was showing up at that time, which doesn't mean that's who I am. That was a life circumstance. So whether that be trauma or abuse or marriage or death or having a baby or losing somebody or whatever the life, divorce, marriage, all the stuff that happens in our lives, all of those things can influence us. But what this podcast is all about is helping all of us be unapologetically who we are at any given time and any circumstance, knowing that we are definitely at 20% of the time, we're not going to be at our best. It's just a fact. And I will explain that in the next episode. We're going to be stressed out. We're going to be sad. We're going to go through depression. We're going to have tough times. That is, I do it. We all do it. That I would be a terrible former therapist. I was a psychotherapist for years. I would be terrible therapist if I pretended that doesn't happen. That's bullshit. Of course it happens. Of course we get depressed and have down times and bad things happen in our lives. It happens to me. It happens to everybody. But when we can show up authentically who we are and we can surround ourselves with people who accept it, and we can accept the people around us for who they are, holy shit, people, life changes. Can you imagine how much more energy you would have if you quit trying to control or change or manage the people around you? Can you even imagine? I did it. I did it. I mean, I still struggle with it, but I stopped. It's amazing how much more time and energy I have when I stopped trying to change people or why aren't you like this or trying to do that to myself. Why aren't I more well-rounded? Why aren't I better at numbers? Why aren't I better at doing this? Who cares? I just decided I'm not going to do that stuff anymore. Granted, I've worked my ass off to get to a place where I can do that. But in our lives, in our businesses, there are things that we are innately and naturally good at. And there are things that we innately and naturally suck at. I urge you to learn what those things are through this podcast and stop doing the stuff that you suck at. Here's a fact. We only get 100% of energy. It's just a law of the universe. We get 100% energy. I choose, and I'm urging you to choose, to spend as much of that 100% energy, 90, that would be great, of that energy on doing things that you're good at. Because when we spend time doing the stuff that we naturally suck at, it just takes up so much more of our energy. Imagine going back to that pushing a boulder up a hill. How much more energy does it expend and take to push a boulder up a hill versus being on the beach and just letting the beach ball flow? There's different levels of energy that it takes to push a boulder up a hill versus letting it flow. When we are in our flow, or when we are in our front seat, hence the name of this episode of Live Your Life from the Front Seat, when we are in this place of our front seat, innateness, the way that we are born, the way that God made us and designed us, the more happy we are, the more we get done, the more fulfilled we are, the more creativity we're allowed to have, that we're going to sleep better. I swear you're going to lose weight. You're going to look better. I think you'll even have better sex. I mean, there's so many benefits of this. So I hope I've convinced you as we go into the next part of this, talking about the Meyers Briggs 4 dichotomies. So let's transition. We're going to go into introversion, extroversion, sensing and intuition, thinking and feeling, and judging and perceiving. Okay, let's jump into introversion and extroversion. This is all about where we give our best selves and where we get and give our best energy. This isn't about shyness. This isn't necessarily about outgoingness. This is truly about energy. And again, where we give and get our best energy and where we give our best selves. So for example, extroverts give their best selves to other people. Introverts save their best selves for themselves and those that are very close to them. I'm actually dating somebody right now, and this was a very interesting thing that came up. I personally think he's an introvert, and everybody else around him thinks he's an extrovert. However, I think they think he's an extrovert because they're best friends with him. And when introverts are with their closest friends, they then become more extroverted, if you will. They are then able to open up. However, they have a depth of friends or a depth of interest versus a breadth of friends and a breadth of interest. So extroverts like myself, I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of good friends, but I also have just a lot of friends. And introverts, on the other hand, will have a few friends, but very, very deep relationships with those people. And often those people will say things like, there's no way that you're an introvert because you're so quirky or you're so talkative or you're so whatever. And it's not, again, because they're shy. It's then they are able to open up to that person. So I have an analogy for this, and I like to call it the heart on the sleeve. So imagine you're wearing a shirt or whatever you're wearing, a jacket, a shirt, and there's a heart on your sleeve. Extroverts wear their heart on the outside of their sleeve, meaning everybody can see it. They're giving their best selves to other people. It's kind of, you see what you get. I don't know, as an extrovert, I can almost say it's almost a little simplistic. Like there's not this hidden best self. Everybody just kind of sees this best part of you. Where introverts, I feel like it's a little more interesting, if you will, and that introverts save their best selves for themselves, meaning that heart is on the inside of their sleeve. So if I was with somebody right now and their heart was on the inside of their sleeves, they would literally need to invite me to get closer to them emotionally and proximity. They would have to say, Jessica, I invite you in to my inner world. Because introverts have this deep and robust and gorgeous inner world where extroverts give that away. We both have this thing, but it's all about whether we keep it inside and with our closest friends and in the inside of our sleeve that we've allowed to come in, or we give it away. I, as an extrovert, I love giving it away. This is why I'm doing this podcast. This is why I write books. This is why I'm a keynote speaker. This is why I do what I do, because I love giving it away. Introverts love to save that for the closest people in their lives. I'm going to tell a story real quick. This is one of the funniest stories that came up around this. So last January, I was on this kind of keynote speaking tour of the East Coast, and I was talking to a bunch of different companies. And in between, I had a hiatus, so I decided to just pop over to the Bahamas instead of kind of flying all the way back to Seattle, which is where I live. I decided to just go over. I was in Florida and then had to go to North Carolina. So anyway, I was in the Bahamas. And I was by myself, and I was paddleboarding, and I saw a leopard ray. I don't know if you've ever seen a leopard ray, but when you're in the Bahamas and the water is crystal clear and you can see all the way to the bottom of the ocean, everything's blue and gorgeous, and a leopard ray comes by. It is beautiful, fascinating, gorgeous, awe-inspiring, and very, very obvious. And so I'm on a paddleboard near the shore by myself, and as an extrovert, I see this ray, and immediately my initial reaction is to start screaming and yelling to everybody else to come see it. Oh my gosh, everybody. Oh my gosh, come over. Look at this. Oh God, there's a stick. Like I wanted other people to experience the stingray. And about halfway through my yelling and my high-pitched, ridiculous outburst, I look around and all these people are looking at me like I am a crazy person. Because when I look back on it, that was a ridiculous, crazy thing to do. Like, who is this crazy chick out here screaming and yelling for us to come see this thing? Like, how stupid. I start cracking up on the paddleboard because I'm like, what an example of being an extrovert. Because I thought, all the introverts in my life, my sister included, and she's who I thought of in that moment, my sister would have had this peaceful, beautiful moment with herself of, oh my God, look at this, it's all in her head. Like, oh my God, I'm having a moment and look at this beautiful thing. And I, as an extrovert, I wanted to share it with the world. And again, that was just such a hilarious and perfect example of truly what it is like to have an experience as an extrovert versus what I imagined it would be like for an introvert to have a similar experience. So I hope you could see yourself in that story. And I'm curious, which one would you have been? Would you have been the screaming fool telling everybody else about it? Or would you have been the one having the moment by yourself? And again, all it says about you is probably whether or not you have introverted energy or extroverted energy. So the other thing I want to say about this before we move on to the next dichotomy is that introverts and extroverts process information differently. So extroverts are what I call external processors, hence yelling to people and telling them, oh my gosh, there's a leopard ray over here, versus introverts are internal processors. They are thinking through things in their heads before it comes out of their mouth. I like to say they have a filter in their brains that extroverts don't have, right? Extroverts, like, I don't have this filter. I don't have this thing. I think it and it comes flying out of my mouth. And all you extroverts, I know that you're the same. And introverts, God bless you, I so wish I had this sometimes, have this filter that allows you to actually think things through before it flies out of your mouth. It's this beautiful, wonderful filter that you have that extroverts don't have. I always joke that if I ever went back and got my PhD, this is what I would do my studies on, is cracking open the skulls of introverts and looking for this filter in your guys' brains, which obviously I know is not a real thing, but it's just this fascinating thing to me of how introverts and extroverts process information differently. And lastly, before we move on, I'm going to do a whole episode on marginalized types. But in our society today, especially with social media and all of the things going on in the world these days, that we live, and again, please don't shoot the messenger, I'm just speaking the truth, #truth-teller, is that we live in an extroverted world. Meaning we reward being an extrovert. How many activities are your kids in? How many things did you do over the weekend? How many posts are you making? How active are you? How engaged? All of the things that we reward. I look at kids now, I don't have any children, but it blows my mind how many activities there are and how jam-packed their schedules are and this and that and activities, and it's just nonstop. And introverts, just extroverts too. I mean, trust me, I definitely need my downtime, but introverts, they have to have it. It's how they recharge. Extroverts get their energy from being around other people. Introverts regain their energy by being alone. So if your spouse is an introvert and they come home from a day of meetings and all the stuff and they need some time by themselves, it doesn't mean they don't love you. It just means they need some time to process. Or if your child comes back from school, their first thing is not going to want to answer 40 million questions from you about how their day was. They may need some time to go in their room and read or play or just decompress. We are different in our energies, and the population differential is literally 50-50 or right around there anyway. And so half of the world literally has different energy than we do. So it is just idiotic for me or you or anybody to go into the world and say, I expect everybody to process information or to have the same energy that I have. It's about me, again, putting on my own oxygen mask on first, knowing that I'm a crazy extrovert, knowing that I have a lot of energy, and then being able to meet half of the people in my life where they are at, that they process information differently, that they need time to decompress. Jenny Dawn is a very, very dear friend of mine. She and I are hosting a retreat in Maui in March 2019, and we're going to stay together. And I know very much that she's going to need more quiet time and downtime to process than I will. In fact, we were just here together doing some planning for it yesterday, and I was thinking out loud, and I apologized to her. I said, I know you know me well enough, but I'm literally externally processing. I was typing a text and talking it out, and I'm sure her introvertedness was like, Jessica, shut the fuck up already. But she didn't, because she loves me. And so it's just, again, about understanding the differences between people and knowing, not being so egocentric, which we all are, and understanding that people are different than us, and there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, it's a glorious and absolutely beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. Hey people, here is your chance of a lifetime to go on an amazing, amazing, life-changing retreat in Maui with the incredible shamanic healer Jenny Dawn and I. We are teaming up our superpowers. We are putting on, again, truly a once-in-a-lifetime retreat this coming March at the Sheraton in Maui. It is Wednesday, March 13th through Sunday, March 17th. There is going to be truly life-changing content, unbelievable community, incredible other people. I am truly thinking of this as a year of therapy in 5 days. As a former therapist, I know the benefits of going week to week, but there truly is something powerful about coming together, doing all of the work in a gorgeous place. There is going to be fun. There is going to be girlfriend time. There is going to be learning. There is going to be deep, deep work, and all in one of the most life-changing places I have ever been, Maui, Hawaii. There is incredible feminine, gorgeous energy there. We are going to be talking about all of the most life-changing life skills that she and I have, and it is going to be the best way for you to spend 5 days that I could possibly imagine. So come join us. The link is below. There are only probably 5 spots left at this point. So make sure that you grab a friend. You come, you can have your own room, a separate room, but I promise you, you are not going to want to miss the event. I cannot wait to hang out with you in Maui. See you there. So let's move on. We're 27 minutes in and I've got 3 more to go. So I'm going to actually get into sensing and intuition now and cut probably thinking and feeling a little bit short on this one. So sensing and intuition, this is a big one. This is all about how we take in information, but then there's so much more to it. There's so much more to it than just how we take in information. So sensors, S's, take in information via their 5 senses, meaning if they can touch it, taste it, hear it, smell it, see it, it is a fact. Intuitives take in information via their sixth sense, meaning they have a hunch, speculation, or a gut feeling about something. They actually don't really care about facts and data and details because they're all about the big picture. They're all about the what if. So this has been the defining dichotomy in my life for sure. So 75% of the population are sensors, meaning they're the rule followers. They're the ones who have set up 9-to-5 jobs. They are the ones who set up standardized testing and schools the way that they are, because they are living in the moment, detailed, factual kinds of people. They're actually great at day-to-day routine. Sensors are fine and good with structure and routines and 9-to-5 and day in and day out. They also have what I would call a brain of like an internal file cabinet. They remember where you went, when you went, how that person in 1985 looked at you. She rolled their eyes, all of the details and facts about life they are able to store. All the other intuitives, which are only 25% of the population listening right now, are likely rolling your eyes or your stomach just turned, because that's not who we are. We despise routine. We don't do well with day in and day out. We are creative. We think outside the box. We must have variety. We must. This is a really interesting one because people question this of, are you just bored or are you just wanting this? It's more than a want. It's a need. It's a need to have something planned. It's a need to think about what's next. It's a need to think outside the box. It's a need to have variety in every part of our lives. Sex, day-to-day routine, vacations, our work, the food that we eat, everything in our life needs to have some sort of variety because structure kills us. Because we're only 25% of the population, we get judged for that a lot. I know I did. So again, I said this is the defining one in my life, and it's because I grew up in a sensing family, and then I married a sensor. My husband was probably off the charts, 30 out of 30 is the Meyers Briggs scale, sensor, and I'm a 30 out of 30 on intuitive. And he would need to know the facts about everything. And I never knew them. I still don't know them. He would need to know exactly how much was in the checking account. He would need to know exactly when and how this is going to work. And intuitives just don't work that way. You can think of it like a funnel, if you will. So sensors take in information and process information at the bottom of the funnel, meaning details and data and minutia, and I need to know how much and when. And intuitives are at the top of the funnel. Super big picture, all the stuff, just having a gut feeling, a hunch. They don't need all the facts. I also like to think of it as walking into a room. So a sensor will walk into a room and they will notice the details of the room. They will notice, I don't know, how it looks, all the little things in the room. And intuitives, you probably already know what I'm going to say. We walk into a room and what do we sense? We sense the energy. When I just bought a house actually recently, and when God bless my realtor, he knew me very well after a while, but I would walk into a house and I would just say yes or no right away, because I would know. Sometimes I didn't even need to go in. I would just pull into the neighborhood and say, this has bad energy, or wow, this has really great energy. He'd say, don't you want to look at the kitchen? I'd be like, no, I don't cook. I don't really care. It was just all the details that I didn't care about. Yet I needed somebody to help me with that. So he did. And I had trusted friends kind of come and help me with that process. But again, it's just a different way of taking in information. Sensors go looking for houses and cars and whatever, and they look at the gas mileage and I don't know, the water heater and all of the details and minutia of a decision, where intuitives, we walk in, sense the energy. Is the car cute? Does it make me happy? It's a little bit ridiculous. And most sensors actually think intuitives are a little bit ridiculous, because we are not making sometimes the most detailed and clear decisions. But I have learned that it serves me very, very, very well. As an intuitive, again, we're only 25% of the population. That is our differentiator. It is our money maker. It is what sets us apart, because we are able to see patterns as sensors are not. And again, please let me be clear. There is not a right or wrong type here. I'm not beating up any type here. I'm just stating the facts. And these are the facts about this type. The last thing I will say about sensors and intuitives is that sensors live in the moment. They live in the here and now. And this is sometimes a little bit confused with the last dichotomy, which I'm going to get to in just a minute. But sensors are in the moment kinds of people, and they are good, again, with the routine. And again, most people say, well, isn't everybody living in the moment? And the answer is no. The intuitives are always living in the future. They're always thinking about what's next. They're always planning for what's next. They want to have a trip planned. They want to know what next thing they're going to do in their business, where they might go as a family or as a person, or what class am I going to take next? What sailing class am I going to take? What book writing course? Like, it's about this what's next? What's next? What's next? What next? I call intuitives the what-ifers. So, I think of couples with this, like, honey, what if we moved to Costa Rica and we opened up a pineapple stand? Or babe, what if we sold the house and we bought a boat and we sailed around the Caribbean for a couple of years? Or what if we took the kids and we moved to Paris? It's all about what if. Sometimes intuitives actually need to do those things, and sometimes they need to just dream about them. So there's so much more to say about this, so much more to say about this. And I promise I will talk at deeper lengths about each of these, I promise. But this is kind of just the very first episode, an overview. I will do an introverted and extroverted podcast just on introversion and extroversion, just on sensing intuition, just on thinking and feeling, and just on judging and perceiving. But this is just an overview. In fact, I've already done a bunch of interviews with people to help you understand these through storytelling, because I think that's one of the best ways. So I'm going to move on, because there's so much more to talk about in terms of this. I'm going to keep this one short. I have an amazing episode 5. Stay tuned for it. This is all about how we make decisions. To oversimplify it, thinkers make decisions with their heads and feelers make decisions with their hearts. Roughly 75% of men are thinkers and roughly 75% of women are feelers. This is all about, again, black and white decision making decisions based on logic and facts, or making decisions from your heart. On episode 5, I have this amazing client friend, just incredible woman coming on. She is a thinking woman. I've been working with her for about 3 years. Her name's Lindsay, and she will be coming on to describe what her experience has been like as a thinking woman. As only 25% of the population, they are often very, very misunderstood, very left out. They're certainly the marginalized type. Intuitives are the marginalized types. Introverts are the marginalized types. And what it has been like for her growing up in that way. And I think you're going to learn so much more about this in that episode. Conversely, I have one of my ex-boyfriends, David Walthew. We're still very dear friends. He's a wonderful human being and a very strong feeling man. His story is fascinating because his mother was a thinking woman, and other than me, he's dated all and was married to a thinking woman, is with a thinking woman now. And he shares his experience of what it has been like to be a feeling man in a world that doesn't really accept that. In fact, the man that I'm dating now is also a feeler, and he often describes that feeling of being around a bunch of men and feeling a little bit weird and a little bit left out and a little bit like, I don't fit in here. And thinking women report the same thing around most women, and feeling men, again, have the same feeling around most men since they're thinkers. So I could say a million more things about that, but I have a whole episode on it, episode 5, so stay tuned for that. So let's now jump into judging and perceiving, because other than sensing and intuition, this is definitely my favorite dichotomy because there's been so much evolution and growth around this dichotomy over the last 5 years as I've deepened my work around it, as I've done more keynote speaking around it, as I've done more coaching around it, and I've noticed a lot of new nuances about this dichotomy. So buckle up. We're going to end this podcast in a really powerful way. Let's jump in to judging and perceiving. I think I'll start this one with a funny story because it helps everybody get it right off the bat. So this is really about how we like to be organized in the world. So many years ago, when I was still married, my husband and I and a couple of friends, we went on this glorious, ridiculously amazing trip around the British Virgin Islands. We sailed on a small catamaran around the British Virgin Islands. And I am what my friends like to call a Super J. They like to joke that I'm a Super J, which means I am like 100% J. I am mega organized, mega controlling and organized, whatever. So we get on this boat. It's the most luxurious, like no planned kind of thing. And day one, the Super J and me, no matter where I am in the world, I get up and I have one sip of my coffee and I ask the captain, okay, so what are we going to do today? Where are we going to go? Can you show me on the map? What time do we normally have breakfast? What's for breakfast? Ooh, what time do we have lunch? Where are we going to go for lunch? Ooh, where do we get to snorkel? Oh, I wonder what islands we're going to go to. Ooh, do we get to get off the boat today? Ooh, when can we get the water toys out? And then what time does the sun go down, by the way? And then what time should we normally go to bed? And then like, what's for dinner? Where do we get to get off the boat? Do we get to go like to a club tonight? Or do we get to have dinner? Or what are we having for dinner? Oh my gosh, all the questions. So he lovingly and probably rather annoyed by me answers all of my questions. And then I got to relax because the J in me and the J in all of you J's knows that we need to know the plan in order to relax. So I then look over at my husband and all of my friends, and their mouths are hanging open in awe and shock and utter irritation because they're all peas, and I just ruined their day. Because they want the day to unfold. They don't want to know the plan. Part of the fun of the trip for them is to not have any idea what's happening. They love living 5 minutes in front of their face. They love being surprised. Us Jays, we want to know the plan so that we can relax. You guys getting this? This is a huge dichotomy in every single aspect of our lives, our relationships, our business, ourselves, how we function. In the next episode, I'm going to talk about the fact that this is the only dichotomy that we don't get to say, I suck at this and therefore I'm not going to do it. All the other ones you get to do that. This one, you don't. We have to learn how to be both. So J's are organized, on time, rather controlling people, and they need to know the plan in order to relax. Back to this new relationship that I'm in. He's a P, I'm a J. And we lovingly had this lovely email exchange about the fact that he understands that I need to know a plan and that he's not like that. And he's like, am I going to drive you crazy? Am I going to annoy you? We just had this wonderful conversation. And then his follow-up email was the cutest thing ever. He planned our weekend. He just sent this amazing email about how about this and how about this and how about this. And I just thought that's how you work with people that are your opposite. Is that his nature? No, not at all. He probably would have loved for it to unfold, but he knows that I like to have a plan. I like to have some idea of what's coming next. When I leave his house or he leaves my house and we don't have a plan to see each other again, this sounds totally neurotic. I promise it's not. All you J's know what I mean. There is this sense of like, oh shit, I don't know what's coming next. So P's, on the other hand, they are spontaneous. They like to go with the flow. And let me say this. This is extra intense when P's work in an environment that makes them be planners, which is almost anybody that has a job. So if you are in a position where you have to be planning and always on time and go to meetings and all of that, in your private life, you even more so don't want to have to make plans. You'd rather be spontaneous. You'd rather just get up on Saturday and kind of see where the day unfolds and kind of see where the day takes you. J's are doers, meaning our natural state is to be doing. It's a state of comfort. It's a state of comfort for me and all J's to know what the plan is, to know what's somewhat coming next, and then to be in a place of doing. However, it's not all that attractive. It can be a little intense. It can be a little masculine, if you will. It can be a bit of a masculine energy. And the episode on judging and perceiving, in particular, episode 6, we're going to talk about this intensely, about masculine and feminine energy and how I have found that these correlate. That being a J has more masculine energy because we're a bit bossy. We're a bit controlling. I mean, again, there's this natural state of me where I have to know this about myself, and people that are going to be in a relationship with me need to know this is how you like things. It doesn't mean I'm neurotic. It doesn't mean whatever. It means that we need to simply know what's next. When am I going to see you next? When's the next trip? What's the plan? Just a little bit of the plan. But as a doer, we have to then do what P's do. And P's have a natural state of being. They are great at living in the moment. They are great going with the flow. They are great at being spontaneous. And they typically have more feminine energy because they're better at going with the flow. Jay's energy is like New York City. It's very go, get it done, walk fast, get going. You know, that masculine energy feel of New York City. That is a natural state for most J's. It's a place of comfort versus feminine energy. And P's and the being is more like Hawaii. Oh, I love Hawaii. The flow, the energy that goes with it there. You kind of get up and go with the flow and literally flowing dresses and flowy hair and the breeze. And those two energies are like the J and the P energy. However, let me be very clear. J's are going to ruin their lives and they're going to annoy the shit out of everybody around them if they don't learn how to have some perceiving qualities in their life, to learn how to be. So on my 45th birthday, or right before my 45th birthday, I was in Maui, my favorite place, because I have such strong masculine energy that is where I go to be and just be more feminine energy. I literally tattooed, I don't have any other tattoos. I waited 45 years. I tattooed B-E, on my arm to remind myself constantly to chill the fuck out, to slow down, to calm down, to be in the present moment, and to enjoy what I am doing, because Jays have a natural tendency and a natural state of being to constantly be, what's next? Where are we going? What's going on? This and that, bossing people around. You're not loading the dishwasher the right way. You're not doing this. Where are we going? What's next? Where it's right. You guys know this. If you're a P, you know somebody in your life who's like this. And if you're a J, you know you're like this. We're annoying. We've got to learn how to chill. And Ps have to learn how to do. I like to say they need to learn how to put the blinders on or focus. This part of what makes me a great coach is that I am super J and most of my clients are Ps. And one of my favorite words for them is focus. I need you to focus right now and focus on getting clear. Focus on getting what needs to be done in front of you, because Ps are natural squirrels. Squirrel. What's next? Squirrel. What's shiny over here? Bright, shiny objects are very distracting to Ps. They are also sometimes hard to, again, keep focused and keep them on track, or to help them kind of get the stuff done that needs to get done. So Ps and Js need each other. So when this wonderful man in my life sent me that message and it's like, is this going to drive you crazy? I'll be honest, my natural reaction is, yeah, it is. It's going to drive me crazy. But I actually need that. I don't know if he needs, my controlling ways in his life, but my J and his P, it's a beautiful balance. And in fact, I think everybody needs that in their life. I will say this too. I have quite a few J clients, and I see myself in them oftentimes, and I don't like it. I don't love that part of me that I know can this makes me like tear up a little bit. It's so gross. I hate this energy about myself. But again, it's about accepting who I am. And then what am I going to do about it? I know that this part of me, I see it in other people, and then I can see it reflected back on me that is gross. It's controlling. It's kind of ruining my life. It's yucky, masculine, bossy, bitchy energy that a lot of Js have. And being conscious of it has allowed, it's never going to change. Let me just say that. It's never going to change. It is innate. It is who I am. But it doesn't mean that I can't work on it. These other dichotomies, it's different. That is not the case with those. Those are what they are. But this one dichotomy is the one that we've got to learn how to balance. Remember before I said, being well-rounded is bullshit? Not in this case. Because you know yourself. You know what, you can see yourself in these stories right now, right? Are you this controlling, bossy, bitchy person? Or are you this person who needs to get their shit together and needs some focus? And I have so many P clients and so many P friends, and they say, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And they never do any of it because they're never focused enough. And it makes me crazy. It makes me crazy. So on this episode number 6, we're going to talk so much more about how this J and P is tied to masculine and feminine energy, how it takes trust in order for most Js to chill out. So that's a huge, huge topic. So please tune in for that, because this masculine feminine energy thing and being tied to this judging and perceiving and the correlation between the two, it's a really powerful tie-in because we're in an epidemic right now of where women are having a hard time learning how to balance, and men they just don't know what to do with us. They don't know what to do. And again, this isn't necessarily gender biased or, sexual orientation biased, but we have this thing where it's hard for us to trust and to release control. But if we don't learn how to do that and we don't learn how to start being a bit, we're going to ruin our relationships. So I promise you, we will have many, many, many episodes talking about that. So stay tuned. I hope that the last 55 minutes has been eye-opening to you, educational to you. It's my deepest hope. It's why I'm doing this. I want families to have these conversations. One of my dearest and best friends, Lisa Fisher, she's this amazing stylist, a dear friend of mine. Her entire family, they talk about this all the time. It's helped her children go into college and know what they're good at, what they suck at, own all these parts of themselves. And it's changed their entire relationship. Her and her husband have this amazing relationship now because they can talk about their differences. They're very different people, but instead of being irritated by it, they accept it and they love it. And that is my deepest hope for every relationship in your life. The relationship with yourself, the relationship with your children, your mothers, your sisters, your brothers, your lover, your spouse, hopefully those are the same people. And everybody, every relationship in your life needs to understand all these things that we just talked about. And again, this is the whole premise of this entire podcast. So please, again, if you've loved this, please join me again. Please join me again. Thank you for listening. Thank you so, so, so much. Share with your friends. Let's start an epidemic of understanding ourselves. Let's start an epidemic of being unapologetically who we are in this world. All right. I will see you next episode. Thank you again so much. Bye now. From the bottom of my heart, truly, thank you so much for listening. I know that you have a ton of options, and the fact that you are taking time to listen to the Front Seat Life podcast means absolutely everything to me. If you're interested in learning more about the Front Seat Life way of life in the community, there's a couple ways that you can do that. First is always starting with your personality assessment tool. It's available on my website at jessicabutts.com. It's totally free, and it will help you figure out your personality type so you'll have some idea of what we're talking about. Next is, if you're interested in hiring me for a keynote or some coaching or strategy days or the fabulous and amazing Front Seat Life community, you can find out all about all of that at jessicabutts.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.